Welcome back to the Hadith channel. Please bear in mind that the Quran has absolutely no connection with Islam. None of the Islamic religious beliefs and practices can be found inside the Quran. The 5 times daily prayers, the Shahada, the call to prayer or Adzan, the head cover for women, stoning adulterers to death, killing the apostates, circumcision for men, men wearing beards, the pilgrimage to Mecca, the fasting rituals, kissing the black stone, are all not found in the Quran at all. Period. There is absolutely no connection between the Quran and Islam. Today we will analyze the discussion between Hamzah Tzortzis and Sheikh Haytham Al Haddab, titled, "Don't Twist the Quran." Sheikh Haytham Al Haddab shows us how to reflect on the Quran. Firstly, there is no such thing as classical Arabic. There is absolutely no Arabic equivalent of these English words classical Arabic. No one says that the earliest Sirah literature by Ibn Ishaq, born 72 years after the Rasul, the writings of Imam Malik, born 80 years after the Rasul, were written in classical Arabic. There is no such thing. No one says that the Hadith writings by Bukhari, born 178 years after the Rasul, are written in classical Arabic. Sheikh Al Haddab, an Arab, is trying to mystify the Quran, to fool Hamzah Tzortzis English language viewers. Note that throughout the 45-minute conversation, Sheikh Haytham Al Haddab does not refer a single verse from the Quran, to support his false theory that the Quran cannot be understood. Not one verse. We will show verses that say exactly the opposite. The Hadith certainly cannot explain the Quran. No one even knows the exact number of Hadith in the Sahih Bukhari. Some say the Sahih Bukhari contains about 2,450 distinct Hadith. No one can explain what that even means. The Quran has 6,236 verses. So how can 2,450 distinct Hadith explain 6,236 verses of the Quran? Sheikh Al Haddab cannot say exactly which verse in the Quran cannot be understood without its accompanying Hadith. There is no such thing. Hamzah Tzortzis, can you show us just one example? Mutashabiha does not mean unclear verses. The Quran is mubin, which means clear. The Quran is a munir, which means a light. How can the Quran be clear, be a light, and then be unclear all at the same time? Mutashabiha literally means similar. Refer Surah 225, 39-23, 6-141, etc. But how can the Hadith explain verses that do not exist in the Quran? There is absolutely no mention of 5 times prayer, or any of the details of prayer, in the Quran. There is absolutely no mention of stoning the adulterer, or killing the apostate in the Quran. Surah 4 verse 137 describes a person who changes his faith multiple times. The Hadith cannot explain verses that simply do not exist in the Quran. There is absolutely no concept of Asbabul Nuzul either. Al-Wahidi mentions asbab for less than 570 out of 6,236 verses in the Quran. Only 9% of the Quran. Those 570, grossly insufficient asbab, are not well authenticated. Some asbab are used more than once. The Messenger taught, and they do not bring to you any allegory, except we bring you the truth and the best tafsir, Surah 25 verse 33. The Quran is the Asana tafsir, or the most beautiful tafsir, or the best tafsir. This means that all other tafsir, written by humans, hundreds of years later, are simply not trustworthy. The Messenger taught, and certainly we made it easy, for the Quran to be remembered. Is there anyone who will remember? Surah 54, verses 17, 22, 32, and 40. Certainly a book that has guidance for mankind, must be user-friendly, it must be easy to remember, and it must be easy to understand. This is what the Rasul taught us in the Quran. Sheikh Haytham Al Haddab and Hamzah Tzortzis are just not speaking the truth.